Alright, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm addressing a question that many people ask on this channel, and it is, in your opinion, what do you think makes a good designer? Now remember, the quick disclaimer for this video is this is in my personal opinion. So according to Google, the definition of a fashion designer is a person who designs high fashion. That's very vague. So what I think is a good designer, and I might ramble a bit in this video, bear with me, is someone who has creative ideas, someone who has a lot of skills, and someone who can best portray their creative ideas onto a garment. That is what I would say is a really good designer. Now, you don't need to go to fashion design school to be able to do that, but it does help, and I'll get into that later. Now, I know a lot of people are new to this channel and might not know what the difference between a designer and a creative director is. So, creative director is just someone who is basically at the head of a brand. So, creative director for Celine is Adi Slimane, so he's in charge of all the design that happens under him. Now, a creative director can be a designer or cannot be a designer. So, you have some creative directors who come from a design background, and they study fashion design at school. And why they're more likely to be a better fashion designer is because as a creative director, you can either have a team of designers that work under you, and then they design, and then eventually when they come up with some good ideas, you fine tune what they've designed. Or on the flip side, some creative directors who are more from a design background, they actually design the clothes. They give a sample, so whatever idea they have in their head, they have the skill to be able to design it and then give it to their design team to kind of expand on it or to make more pieces, essentially. So that's kind of what contributes to being a good designer. However, there are some designers who didn't go to fashion design school, like Rei Kawakubo, but Rei Kawakubo learnt, which is going back to my definition, I said it's someone with creative ideas and can convey the messages in their head onto a garment. Because Rei Kawakubo, even though she didn't study fashion design, over the years she made sure she learned how, if there's something like an idea in her head, she learnt the skills to be able to represent that in a garment to show her team that could then expand on it or make more. It's kind of limiting as a fashion designer, quote unquote, or a creative director if you can't convey what's in your head. Even as a fashion designer, if you're not good enough to the point where you have an idea in your head, but you can't really portray it in a garment, then I wouldn't say you're a really good fashion designer. This is personally my opinion though. So this is why people always ask me, and why this is the most asked question, is normally this question comes from videos where I say I think Virgil Abloh is a bad designer, and I say he's more of a marketer. And people think I'm just going with, I don't know, what people say, but I guess I haven't really explained it, so that's kind of what I'm doing now. And an analogy I'll bring is, when we think of things like video editing, there are people with a lot of skills in video editing, and then there are also other people who have really creative ideas on how to edit a video, but they don't know how to get there. Now, when all is said and done, the final product will look better from someone who doesn't have too many ideas but is very skilled at video editing, other than someone who has so many ideas but he's not really that good at video editing. So that comes down to fashion design as well. If you have really, really good ideas in your head, but you don't have the skills to be able to portray that in a garment or make that in a garment, to be able to show your team, okay, this is exactly what I want. This is kind of what I'm talking about. And then your team can expand on that. Your collection is not going to be as good as someone who, whatever idea is in their head, and it's a good idea, has the skills to be able to put it in a garment, design it in a garment, make a sample, and then show that to their team. So that to me is what makes a good designer. So it's the ability to be able to portray your ideas onto a garment, but also you have to have good ideas in the first place. If you have the ability to portray ideas, but then your ideas are trash, then your collections aren't going to look really good, are they? So I think a lot of people don't understand how fashion works. So someone like Virgil Abloh, for example, he's a creative director. Well, not creative director, he's head of menswear, artistic director for menswear at Louis Vuitton. Now, he doesn't come from a design background. So every Louis Vuitton collection you see that Virgil Abloh made, how it works is he has a team of designers that work under him, and he might tell them, what I want for this collection is so and so and so and so and so and so. But because he can't really make clothes himself, he hasn't learnt the designing skills required to be able to portray whatever he's thinking onto a garment. So that's why someone like Virgil Abloh, he will rely on his team to kind of play with whatever ideas he's had. And then when they bring the ideas to him, he might fine tune it. But then at that point, they're not really your ideas because you've just said a couple things and your team has expanded on it. But with people who come from more of a design background, you see that they, like, let's say Demna Gvasalia at Balenciaga, those type of people, when they create a collection, they have the skills to be able to make a sample and then say, this is exactly what I want, this is what I'm talking about. And then the team can kind of expand on that, make different sample sizes and do all sorts of things. So I feel like a lot of people also ask me a question that is very frequent on this channel is, do you need to go to fashion design school to be a good designer? My answer is no, so long as you learn the skills needed to be able to portray what's in your head on paper, which means that it's ideal for you to go to fashion design school then, because how do you learn these skills in the real world if you don't have a studio that you can go to and do trial and error? Or if, let's say you didn't go to college or university for fashion design, but you went to some class that you learned how to sew, and then another class where you learn how to make patterns. And that's a reason why the greatest fashion designers of all time, if we think of them, we think of people like the Antwerp Six, we think of Vivienne Westwood, think of Raquel Kubo, we can go Cristobal Balenciaga, we can go through a long list of fashion legends. All of them have the ability to portray whatever ideas in their head onto a garment. Think of Alexander McQueen. When Alexander McQueen had his brand before he died, unfortunately, he used to make the samples. He didn't just have his team and then be like, okay guys, what I want is so-and-so and this collection is inspired by so-and-so. No, that's not how his brand worked. He would make something to portray what he's thinking, and that gives his team a better idea of, okay, okay, this is exactly what he means. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like. And then they expand on it. And a lot of those designers also start from a place where they didn't even have a team in the first place. So they had to do everything themselves. Where people like Virgil Abloh now, and this is the problem I have with fashion, a lot of people say, oh, you're being too harsh on these guys, but not really, because I don't want to see fashion get watered down by people like Virgil Abloh. Like, if you want to be respected, which is something I know he cares a lot about, you have to learn how to portray what's in your head onto a garment. And that's why there's a big correlation between people who can do that and good brands, which is why I said fashion legends, the Antwerp Six, Raquel Kubo, Martin Margiela, those guys all have the ability, and they all come from a design background. And the ones that don't, like Raquel Kubo, took time out to learn how to design, even though they didn't formally have an education in fashion. But yeah, that's a very, very spicy topic and something that a lot of people ask me, so I thought I'd address it in this video. Recently, I've noticed I've had a huge surge of subscribers because Sanjeev featured me in a video, which was a huge honor. I've been watching his channel for years, so it was crazy. I was so surprised when I saw that video. So if you haven't heard of Sanjeev's channel or you don't watch it, definitely check him out. I don't know why you wouldn't have heard of him, but if you haven't, check him out. And if you're new from like the Sanjeev video and you don't know what type of videos to expect on this channel, my main two things that I do is I review like Fashion Week. I make overviews of Fashion Week, and then I talk about designers and why they're great and what they've done. So I have a series on my channel that's called Who Is, and I have a playlist, and so I've done Craig Green, Ray Kubo, some members of the Antwerp Six, Vivian Westwood, Christopher Bailey. So I just pick a designer and then talk about what they've done and kind of what they've done in fashion and why they're important. Because I know it's important to understand, like, I know a lot of people are getting into fashion now and they really want to know who are all these designers, and it's really confusing. So I'm trying to simplify that for people. So yeah, those are the type of videos I make. Sometimes I do other stuff as well, like vlogs and other stuff, but those are my main things. And yeah, follow me on Instagram at Fashion Roadman. Like this video if you liked it. Definitely comment down below what you personally think as a fashion designer, because you might not agree with me. And yeah, on that note, I'm out.